The internet is a vast, sprawling labyrinth. We navigate familiar paths, but there are always hidden corners, dark alleys that lead to nowhere, and forgotten forums collecting dust in the digital ether. That's where I found it. A thread titled The Deep Web Broadcast. It was a simple text post, devoid of context. Just a single line. They're looking for you. Tune in at 3:14 a.m. on local broadcast channel 73.1. Curiosity, that insatiable itch, took hold. 3:14 a.m. was an odd time, and local channel 73 was nothing but static in my area. But the internet breeds a morbid fascination with the unknown. At 3:13, I found myself staring at the static, a pit of unease forming in my stomach. Then a flicker. A grainy image materialized. A dark room lit only by the flicker of a single candle. A figure, shrouded in shadow, sat hunched over a desk, their back to the camera. A voice, raspy and distorted, filled the silence. "Are you there?" It rasped. "Can you hear me?" A primal jolt of fear shot through me. My finger hovered over the power button, but morbid curiosity held me frozen. The figure spoke again, its voice laced with desperation. "They're after me," it hissed. "They took the others. I need your help. You have to spread the signal." The image flickered, then died. Static returned, a mocking hiss in the darkness. I scrambled to record the broadcast. A sliver of proof against the encroaching doubt. Sleep was impossible. The next day, I searched for the thread, but it was gone. No trace of it, no record. Was it a prank? A hallucination? I couldn't shake the image of the figure, the raw terror in their voice. I uploaded the recording anonymously, a tiny beacon in the vast ocean of the internet. Days turned into weeks. Then, one by one, emails started arriving. Messages from strangers echoing the figure's words. "They're looking for you," they'd say. "Spread the signal." Panic gnawed at me. Was I being targeted? Or was this some elaborate internet hoax? I couldn't tell. The fear was a constant companion now, a cold dread that coiled in my gut. Then, one night, I woke to a scratching sound at my window. A silhouette stood there, obscured by the darkness. A raspy voice, chillingly familiar, whispered, "Thank you for spreading the signal." I never saw the figure again, but the emails haven't stopped. More and more people are receiving them, their messages echoing the same chilling plea. The search is on. And somewhere, in the forgotten corners of the internet, a desperate soul fights for survival. Their only hope, a flickering signal on a dead channel. Flickering through the static wasteland of late-night television, I stumbled upon a peculiar broadcast entitled The Smiling Man Show. It displayed a grainy image of a man with an unnervingly wide grin plastered on his face. His eyes, black and bottomless, seemed to pierce through the screen. An unsettling silence hung heavy in the air, broken only by the occasional nervous cough from the unseen host. Curiosity gnawed at me. Who was this man? Why the unnerving silence? As I watched, the man on the screen spoke in a slow, monotone voice. "Welcome, viewers," he rasped, the words echoing through the room like gravel scraping against concrete. "Tonight, we delve into the forgotten corners of the human psyche. We explore the darkness that lurks within us all." A shiver ran down my spine. The man's smile seemed to widen, stretching the boundaries of human anatomy. He spoke of rituals practiced in hidden corners of the world, of entities that thrived on negative emotions. With each word, the air in the room grew colder, heavier. Then, the show took a horrifying turn. The camera zoomed in on the man's face, revealing a network of tiny cuts etched across his wide grin. A single tear, crimson red, rolled down his cheek. "This smile," he whispered, his voice cracking with emotion, It wasn't always mine. It was borrowed. The screen flickered, distorting the image before cutting to static. My heart hammered against my ribs. Was this some elaborate prank? Or something more sinister? The next day, the story was gone. No trace of the Smiling Man show existed in the television listings or online archives, but the unsettling image of the man and his horrifying words remained etched in my mind. Then, a week later, I saw him, walking down the street, indistinguishable from the crowd except for one chilling detail: the wide, unnatural grin carved across his face. Our eyes met for a fleeting moment, and a shiver ran down my spine. His smile, I realized with a jolt of terror, wasn't painted on. It was real. Now I see him everywhere, in crowded grocery stores, on bustling subway trains. His smile, a constant reminder of the darkness he spoke of on that late-night broadcast. The fear is a constant companion. Is he just spreading fear, or is there something more to his borrowed smile? The answer, I fear, might be hidden in the forgotten corners of the television, waiting to be rediscovered on another sleepless night. The highway stretched before me like a concrete ribbon, disappearing into the endless expanse of the desert night. It was a notorious stretch of road, whispered about by truckers and seasoned travelers, the lost highway. Legend spoke of travelers who disappeared without a trace, their vehicles found abandoned and stripped bare. Fueled by a thirst for adventure and a healthy dose of skepticism, I decided to take the lost highway. The sun dipped below the horizon, plunging the landscape into an inky darkness. The only light came from my headlights, casting long, distorted shadows on the cracked asphalt. As I drove, the radio started to sputter, the usual static morphing into a cacophony of distorted voices. They spoke in a language I couldn't understand, a guttural mix of clicks and hisses that sent shivers down my spine. Then, the road signs started to change. The familiar names of towns and exits were replaced by cryptic symbols that seemed to writhe and pulsate in the darkness. A growing unease gnawed at me. Suddenly, the car sputtered and died. The silence was deafening, broken only by the howling wind. Panic surged through me as I fumbled for my phone. The signal bar is a cruel joke, no service. Stepping out of the car, I tried to get a sense of my surroundings. The air hung heavy, thick with an oppressive silence. The darkness seemed to press in on me, suffocating. Then I saw them. Figures materialized from the shadows, their forms shifting and undulating like mirages. They spoke in the same guttural language I had heard on the radio, their voices echoing through the desolate landscape. Terror propelled me back towards my car. The figures shuffled closer, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light. I slammed the car door shut, desperately trying to start the engine. But it was dead, its battery seemingly drained by the unnatural presence. As the figures surrounded the car, I noticed something written on the dusty windshield. A message in the same cryptic symbols from the road signs. It seemed to beckon me, a twisted invitation. Just then, a blinding flash illuminated the desert sky. When the light faded, the figures were gone. My car sputtered back to life, the radio now playing a familiar song as if nothing had happened. I wasted no time. I floored the accelerator, the car surging forward. The road signs returned to normal, the cryptic symbols fading back into familiar names. I didn't stop until I reached the nearest town, a shaken mess. The experience on the lost highway remains a chilling mystery. The language of the figures, the cryptic symbols, the chilling message on the windshield. It all pointed to something sinister lurking beneath the desert sky. Now, every time I hear a story about a missing traveler, a part of me wonders if they met the same fate, trapped on the lost highway, forever lost in the language of the shadows. The city was a symphony of honking horns and flashing neon signs, but none of it could penetrate the suffocating silence. of the late-night train. I boarded on a whim, seeking a quiet escape from the city's relentless energy. The carriage was mostly empty, save for a lone figure huddled in a corner seat. The figure, an elderly woman draped in a worn shawl, barely registered in my sleep-deprived haze. Exhaustion pulled at me, and I drifted off, my head lulled by the rhythmic rattle of the train. A blood-curdling scream jolted me awake. My heart hammered against my ribs as I scanned the carriage. The old woman was gone, replaced by a young man, his face contorted in the mask of terror. Panic clawed at my throat. "What happened?" I stammered. He stared at me with wild, bloodshot eyes. You can see me." His voice was a hoarse whisper. "Who are you?" I demanded, fear battling with morbid curiosity. "I'm the passenger," he rasped, "the one who takes the empty seat. But only those who can see can hear my story." A shiver ran down my spine. "What story?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He leaned closer, his eyes burning with an unnatural intensity. "This train," he hissed. "It doesn't just travel through cities and towns, it travels through moments. Moments of fear, of despair, of unspeakable horror." He spoke of a conductor who collected these moments, weaving them into a horrifying tapestry of human suffering. Moments that became real for those who could see, like passengers on a twisted ghost train. His words chilled me to the bone. With every bump and rattle, the train seemed to shudder, the air growing colder, heavier. Whispers filled the carriage, a cacophony of terror from unseen passengers. He pointed to a dark corner. A scene materialized from thin air. A man, his face contorted in agony, strapped to a chair in a room bathed in a bloody red light. Tears welled in the passenger's eyes. "Please," he pleaded, "you have to stop it. You have to get off at the next station." The train slowed, approaching a dark, deserted platform. Panic tightened its grip on me. Was this the escape he spoke of? Or just another horrifying destination? As the train doors hissed open, I looked back. The passenger was gone, replaced by the empty seat. The echoes of his words lingered in the air. "Tell someone. Tell them the passenger is real." I stumbled off the train, the desolate platform stretching before me like a bad dream. The city lights, once a source of annoyance, now seemed like a beacon of safety. Was the passenger's story real or a figment of a sleep-deprived mind? The memory of the man in the blood-red room haunts me. Now, every train ride is a test. Will I see the empty seat again? Will I become another passenger on the midnight train, forever trapped in the journey through moments of unimaginable horror? Deep within the bowels of the city library, hidden amongst dusty archives and forgotten lore, resided a peculiar section known as the restricted stacks. Here, ancient tomes whispered secrets, and artifacts held the echoes of forgotten nightmares. Access was strictly forbidden, a chilling testament to the horrors housed within. One dreary afternoon, fueled by a thirst for the unknown, I found myself drawn to the restricted stacks. The air hung heavy with an oppressive silence, broken only by the rhythmic creak of the ancient floorboards under my feet. A lone librarian, a gaunt woman with eyes that held the weight of countless untold stories, materialized from the shadows. Her voice, a dry rasp, echoed as she warned, "Those who venture into the restricted stacks tread a perilous path. Some secrets are best left buried." My curiosity, however, was a ravenous beast. I ignored her warning, drawn to a single, ornately bound book, chained to a lectern. It pulsed with an unsettling energy, a beacon in the dimly lit stacks. The inscription on the cover read, "The Endless Scroll, a chronicle of unspeakable horrors." Hesitantly, I unclasped the book, a wave of nausea washing over me as I inhaled the scent of aged parchment and despair. The pages, filled with a spidery script and unsettling illustrations, spoke of entities that dwelled in the space between realities, drawn to our world through portals opened by human curiosity. The book warned of an endless scroll, an artifact said to hold the key to unleashing these horrors upon our world. As I delved deeper, a horrifying realization dawned. The illustrations depicted the endless scroll, a device resembling a warped computer monitor, its screen perpetually displaying an endlessly scrolling list of forbidden knowledge. Suddenly, a cold wind swept through the stacks, extinguishing the lone lantern. The air crackled with a malevolent energy. Before I could react, the book emanated a faint glow, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, nestled amongst brittle scrolls, lay a tarnished silver device. The endless scroll. Panic seized me. I fumbled to close the book, but it was too late. The device pulsed with a sickly green light, and the room filled with a cacophony of alien whispers. The illustrations in the book writhed and contorted, spilling off the pages and into the real world. Terror propelled me forward. I slammed the book shut, the silver device clattering to the floor. The whispers intensified, clawing at the edges of my sanity. I fled the restricted stacks. The chilling image of the endless scroll and its promise of unimaginable horrors burned into my memory. The librarian, her face etched with a grim satisfaction, stood at the entrance. "You should never have ventured into the restricted stacks," she rasped. "Now the consequences are yours to bear." As I escaped into the bustling city, the whispers seemed to follow, a constant reminder of the darkness I had unleashed. The endless scroll may be contained, but the entities it awakened hunger for a way back to our world. And somewhere, deep within the library's labyrinthine stacks, a single screen flickers, an endless scroll promising a horrifying new reality. So, those were 5 real creepypastas to keep you up at night. Do you believe they're just stories, or is there a sliver of truth lurking beneath the digital shadows? Let me know in the comments below, what was your favorite story? And if you're brave enough, share your own creepy encounters.